I was born near, that's the way it's on my delayed birth certificate. I was born near Stroud, Oklahoma. And where we lived was a rural area in the woods. Trees were all around our house. And I was delivered by a midwife. And I'm the first of, there were 4 children born in our family, but 3 of us survived. And we lived there until I was 5 years old. When we moved into Hanford, I was in the 1st grade. I had started to school at Willow Grove, which is out on far Grangeville. It was an old school out there, in one-room schoolhouse. Mrs. Tibbs was the teacher. The area was predominantly Portuguese people. I didn't know that at the time. But my cousin and I, we were both starting to school out there. And, it was a very exciting experience for us because there were no problems. We were the only Black students out there, but we were never treated differently, and we just had a good time at Willow Grove School. Where we lived in that particular area of 4th Street and Dowdy and Irwin Street, it was like international place, because the boundaries were Hanford Armona Road, 10th Avenue, 11th Avenue, and 6th Street. And everybody lived there. Across the street from us were Hispanic people, Italian people. Across the street from them were Black families who had been here for years when we came here. Hispanic people lived back there. Everybody lived in that neighborhood. It was just, say, like an international community. Well, we really didn't have fun because we didn't have any toys to play with. What we played with were old tires, and where we lived there at 314 South Irwin Street, it was just dirt. And my mother would send us out to play, and she'd say, "Go out and play and don't get dirty." And that's all there was. We didn't have any lawns or anything. It was just so, and the girls, my brother and boys in the neighborhood, they could all go out in street and play, but girls had to stay in their yards. Girls, my neighbor next door and back of us, Ruth Contreras, we'd sit out on a log and talk because we couldn't leave our yards. That was just the rules of the parents in that area. You stay in your yard, and so we did. My mother did not work until we came here. Well, I shouldn't say she didn't work, because my father was sharecropping, and she would go and pick cotton. She would help pick the fruit, and then when we came to Hanford, she still did field work. She'd go pick cotton, she would chop cotton, and we would pick grapes. That was what we were doing. And my father, when I was 14, my father taught me how to drive, because my mother didn't drive, my grandmother didn't drive, and Daddy worked out at the Army Air Base. So at 14, my father taught me how to drive, so that I could drive the family up close to Fresno to work in the grapes. And so, say from 14 on, Been driving ever since. I can remember listening to the radio, not really understanding, listening to President Roosevelt talk about the war and the attack. And then what really impacted me was when we were in third grade. As I told you, our community was an international community. And one of my friends, Takashi Tatsui, came to our class to tell us goodbye because they were being sent to the concentration camps here, the internment camps. And I never saw him again. We did not see the Japanese in school until we entered high school. After graduated from Hanford High in 1949, went to COS. And my father, he was so excited. We were excited too to get to go to COS. And all I could think about, and my children, they still laugh about me about this, because I did not want to get out of school and have to go pick cotton, because that's all there was around here to do for the majority of the Black people, was to work in the fields. And so I didn't want to do that. And so I took clerical classes over there because I wanted to work in an office. There was a handful of us, there was one Black girl from Lemoore, Beatrice Clark. Because there was a bus at that time that ran to COS, and that's how we got there. Beatrice was from Lemoore. There were 3 Black girls from Hanford. There was one from Corcoran. There was 2 or 3 from Tulare. It was like we were the first generation that was able to go to college. And the teacher who taught all of these classes, the whole class, it was a big class, and she said to us, "I don't know why you colored girls are taking all these classes, because we can't place you." I thought, well, okay, but we'll take them anyway. I passed the test to be a social worker, and I became a social worker. And after I became a social worker, I was eventually moved into the area of child protective services. And I did child protective services for a long time. And then I was offered the position of being a court officer. Well, because nobody wanted the job. Nobody wanted the job. No one. So reluctantly, I took the job as a court officer for Child Protective Services and loved it. And I worked there, not at that job, but I worked, the total of my time at the welfare department was 38 years. My parents were so good to us that, and I'm so thankful for it. When my father started with this Alzheimer's thing, my mother could not take care of him by herself, so we had to place him. My father got to the place where he couldn't talk. He didn't know how to get a drink of water. He didn't know how to feed himself. And so I would have to show him, pick up the fork, feed yourself. And, but he knew me because I was there every day. Even though he couldn't talk, he knew who I was. And I saw him the day that he died. I was sitting on the end of his bed, and he was looking at me. With my mother, I also took care of my mother. At 85, I took her out of the nursing home and took care of her. And so I'm so thankful that I was able to do that. To me, that was the greatest thing to me, the honoring of my parents.
Margerene, I want to thank you. You've told us some amazing stories. Thank you very much for participating in our Oral History Project.
Well, thank you for letting me. Thank you for letting me.